Hi, everybody. This is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your sun and rising sign horoscopes for March of 2019. This is for Geminis. All right, let me go ahead and put your chart up on the screen where you can see it, and we'll go ahead and dive in. The very beginning of the month starts off pretty, it packs a punch because you'll see the planet Venus in your 8th house in Capricorn, culminating in a square to Uranus across the 8th and 11th house. Now, this transit, generally speaking, connecting Venus to Uranus, is disruptive for all different kinds of relationships and agreements. The basic idea behind this is that Venus is the planet of relationships, harmony, agreement, friendship, love. So Uranus, on the other hand, is the rebel who likes independence and often shocks and separates things. It tends to break things apart through disruption, and it tends to also liberate things that need liberating. So the potential at the beginning of the month to start off with a little bit of a shock around relationships or agreements could also involve things like spouse or partner's income, money or assets or resources from the standpoint of your relationships. Could involve groups of people in the 11th house, or friends or colleagues, and some shakeups around financial matters within organizations or institutions. You could also see the potential for something good to happen by getting out of something that's no longer working. You have to face a fear. You have to. There's no longer denying it. Something needs to change. It has that kind of moment behind it. So even though it might represent something of a stressful shakeup, especially in relationships, it could be a little scary with the 8th house. Sometimes we're a little bit more afraid of things coming through the 8th house. Not necessarily that we have to be. It's just the 8th house has to do with changes that sometimes we're a little less willing to make. But it can create, at the end of the day, this could create some free you up a little bit, or create some healthy space. So think of the keyword liberation as well. Now, we go forward to March 6th, and on March 6th, you've got a huge lineup of planets. Of a new moon conjoined with Neptune, Mercury's turning retrograde, all in your career house. Focus for the next lunar cycle is your career. However, even though something very new is getting started in your career, is it real? Will it last? Is it true? Because you're not going to be seeing everything 100% clear, and there's going to be some revisions, some changes, going through some kind of turnaround process of a reversal of fortune, or this newness may represent a fundamental shift. You're really changing course. You're changing the way you're thinking. You're getting clear about something, but how clear can you really be with Mercury in its fall, going retrograde, backward toward Neptune? So just be discerning, because whatever shift you're trying to make, especially professionally this month, even if some of it is good and needs to happen, there may be pieces of it that need to go through adjustments or that aren't fully realistic. So be careful about that. Now, in terms of another big event happening on the 6th, well, the planet Uranus changes signs and goes into Taurus in your 12th house. This will last now really for a better part of the next 7 years. And this is a transit that in the 12th, first of all, when Uranus goes anywhere, Uranus brings shock, disruption, rebellion, emphasis on individuation and independence and freedom, originality, but is also very defiant, erratic, and can really shock sometimes, and is sometimes associated with sudden and violent disruptions in life. So it doesn't sound fun, right? But the upside is that Uranus does bring freedom. So in going into the 12th house, you're thinking about shaking up your entire paradigm, your entire way of life. But you're going to do so in a way that may take you off the beaten trail. The 12th house is often associated with solitude, with outsiders, with outcasts, with heretics, with witches, with people who are self-destructive. I had Uranus in my house, 12th house, for a long time. And I really, once it entered, I started departing the normal course in my life and had no idea where I was going. And it was very rebellious and in some ways really stupid. But I always say this about the 12th house: all who wander are not lost. In 2026 or whenever it is, Uranus will enter your first house. And there will be a moment where all of the wandering, experimenting, and deviating from a set course that you're about to do, some of which may be very fun, some of which may be very chaotic and confusing. Some of it may involve loss. Some of it may involve, great joy. But Uranus in the 12th is really taking you off from the set course and doing so in ways that are a little erratic and a little outside the box. But once that's over, it goes into your first house. It's like a rebirthing. So the 12th was associated with women who were in labor. You're kind of going into a period of time where you're really going to be laboring to rebirth a new version of yourself in the mid 2020s. And that new version of yourself you're just think about it as this month, you're starting to go into labor with that, a long-term labor. It might not feel acute like labor, right? But it's a long-term labor you're about to go into. All right. So you can think about that. Between March 14th and the 19th, that's next. So during this time, you're going to see Mars in your 12th house, moving through trines to Saturn and Pluto in the 8th. Now, thank God these are trines, because that usually will bring something productive out of the mix of this. But these are a hard combination of planets. Mars, god of war; Saturn, god of necessity and limitation and restriction; Pluto, lord of death and the underworld, right? Doesn't sound like fun. 12th house, difficult house. 8th house, difficult house. So I get the feeling this month like you are trying to work through something and figuring out who your friends and allies are, who can be trusted and who can't. That might be a possibility. The other thing would be the possibility of trying to get out of something that you feel like you've become entrapped in. And how do you get out of something that is holding you back in some way? And maybe there's some kind of confrontation that has to happen, but it's about getting you out of something. Another image that comes to my mind is that of like you're in the trenches with something and you have to work through it, and it's very difficult, and it's very but perhaps there's some sense of, oh, there's something, I'm doing this for a reason, because Mars is pretty willful, and Saturn and Pluto are the process of rebuilding or redoing something. And so, maybe you're trying to you're working to come to terms with something. You're working through something, and it's a kind of a painful looking process, but it also has the look of productivity and potential success if you kind of keep your nose down and do it. However, motivations are also really important between the 12th and the 8th, because it's possible to do things in these two houses that are a little self-destructive. So be careful that you're not working so hard at something that is really outside of integrity, or you just know that you should be or could be doing better. So be careful about that. All right. So then on the 20th, you're going to see this. This is a nice one. You're going to see the sun for the equinox go right into Aries and conjoin with Chiron in the 11th house. This is a moment. The 11th house has to do with friends, groups, allies, colleagues, benefactors. This is a moment where the potential for healing with friends or healing within a group is possible. However, the other thing that comes to my mind is meeting powerful new allies who offer you the ability to do some kind of healing work on yourself. So whether that's a teacher or a guide or a group or just someone coming into your life to offer you clarity, renewal, healing, greater understanding and wisdom. Also potential for opportunities to do something within a group or an organization. Maybe given the 10th house signature, you're finding new people to collaborate or start some kind of new professional venture with. But I like this transit a lot as the spring equinox. It really seems to announce a moment of initiating something, and I think something that could be very healing and have a long-term healthy impact on your life, given the newly arrived presence of Chiron in the house of friends, dreams for the future, groups. You're shifting gears somehow right now. You're you're thinking about a new, either new people in your life or a new culture that you're a part of, or even new projects and collaborations with other people, and also maybe putting yourself out there a little bit more in a larger way, socially or professionally. Those are things that come to my mind anyway. Now, the full moon will also happen right around the 20th, 21st. That'll be happening in Libra in the 5th house, which is a place of good fortune, while Venus, the ruler, is in your 9th house, which is a place of higher education, long journeys, spirituality and religion. I like this as potentially a very joyful, creative, and even spiritual full moon for you. And the idea also of the common shared beliefs, maybe within groups, maybe some of that healing moment from the sun, Chiron, is connecting to some kind of joyful and creative experience with those who share similar beliefs or values. The other thing that comes to mind, 5th house was traditionally called the house of good fortune. It's associated with anything that brings us joy and happiness, including sex, children, pregnancy. There's a joyous side to that anyway. And then 5th house is also associated with recreation, sport, creativity, the arts, anything that is about kind of fun and joy in that sense. So the full moon in that house suggests a creative, flourishing moment on the 20th. But again, with Venus, the ruler of the full moon, in the 9th for most of the month, you also notice Venus at this exact same time making a square to Mars in the 12th house. There's something about the importance of beliefs and common beliefs and dreams and goals that's also very important to this full moon. I think the potential to find some kind of alchemy is really good, but you may have to be also willing to state what you need and what your beliefs are a little bit more clearly. Even though you're flexible, pretty compromising by nature, if you're a Gemini rising or Gemini sun, very flexible, open-minded, you may need to, be a little bit more decisive around this time of the month so that you get the most out of something that you're trying to do. At any rate, the end of the month, the 24th through the 29th, here's what we've got going on. Venus will enter Pisces, moving to your 10th house. It's a very nice exalted Venus in your career house now for a couple of weeks. Mercury is going through a retrograde conjunction with Neptune, stationing, turning direct, and then going back through conjunction with Neptune. Very important moment professionally. Good things happening in your professional house, but that Mercury-Neptune has me a little bit nervous this month for you. That's your ruling planet in its fall and retrograde in the career house with Neptune. I'm worried that you'll make a bad choice, or that you'll make a hasty choice, or that you'll make a fantastical choice that's not entirely grounded. That's my worry. On the other hand, to go through some revision of your thinking and understanding, to have your mind opened up to alternative visions and a different level of inspiration this month is, I think, pretty profound. And that might be part of the Neptune Mercury in your 10th house as well. So that's what I've got for you, Geminis. I hope that this was interesting. Give me your feedback, put your stories on the wall, tell me how things go. I'm off to India at the end of this week. I will be back in March. That's why I'm putting these up early. And then we'll see you again for April's horoscopes. Okay, take care. Bye.